is your day now, your day to shine. Take back the gifts you have and make the world your shrine. Make it the best you can. Make it about you. This is your day now, baby. Go out there, make your dreams come true.
I'm going to go for it. Okay, so you're just going to see me. I'm going to turn that around and you can listen. And then, as I say, the rest of it you're going to have to watch on the actual interview. So, hi, Richard. How are you today? Where do you live again? Just fill us in a little bit.
Yes, I'm very good, very well. Live in Bromsgrove, which is between Birmingham and Worcestershire, the Midlands, UK. And we've got terrible weather today. Yeah,
join the club. I mean, it's really good weather at the moment for the allotment. What can I say?
That's it. That's right.
The allotment, and for that I'm grateful. I'm going to leave the Facebook Live at the moment. It's just a bit of a nightmare. So, right, we put a little bit. Okay, so basically, we're going to talk a little bit now about where do you come from? Where does all this start? Because I'm very interested in your background, and with Moving On TV, I like to find out where everyone comes from, what their background is, and what led you into being what you're being. But, you know, from what I know about you, you've been very active in rescuing animals, and you're on that consciousness of love and compassion, and that's probably what led you to the kind of what you're doing today. So just tell us a little bit about your childhood, a little bit about who is Richard, and what kind of child were you, what kind of student were you, and where does your Dr. Dolittle kind of attitude, or do you remember the Durrells?
That's it. So, to be honest, I mean, childhood.
The Durrells' consciousness of looking after animals. So I'm going.
Yes, certainly. It's been quite a long time I've been doing it. So in my town, a lot of people call me the Dr. Dolittle or the Animal Man. It's never been funded. So everything I do has never been funded, you know. So the animals that we took on, it started off quite small, and it was based on my whole life of experience with animals. A few years ago, I got to a point where I realised, you know, I could do wildlife as well. I took lots of wildlife to UK's RSPCA over the years, and I found out that most of the animals I took there were put down. They were put to sleep.
Oh, God.
And when I found out this was regularly happening, I had to find out why. And it turned out that they don't have the rehabilitation programs for them, all the animals, and sometimes it's best for them to do that, and depending on the age and the condition. So obviously I started quite a long time ago taking care of certain animals and, you know, researching with every animal we did. But that path was brilliant, and we've had lots of animals. So I did a little video a short while ago of my old phone, just put a few bits and bobs together, which shows the sort of stuff we have done. It went into reptile rescue as well. Well, obviously about a year ago, I had to start getting rid of as much as I can and rehoming stuff, because I realised that I was getting too fond of the animals and almost kept them all as pets. Apart from the main wildlife, obviously they get to an age where they are okay to leave, and they're strong enough, or they recover from an injury, and then obviously I'd send them on their way, and we did it as a family thing. So my kids have been brought up around animals. They're absolutely brilliant, and they know a lot about them, so that was that. But childhood, you know, I grew up in the 80s, early 90s and stuff. So my childhood was great. I lived in a close full of lots of other children. And then generally, as we say, coming from a broken home, you know, my real dad and mum split up. So my brother, who everyone would have seen on the videos, is actually my stepbrother. We're both called Richard. So two brothers from the age of...
Richard, right?
Yeah, both called Richard. So growing up, it was big and little. But we are close, you know, so of all the family, we are very close, me and my brother. As far as
Little
we're concerned.
Richard, like Little Richard, the
That's it, yeah, little and big.
piano player.
Yeah.
Are you the big Richard then?
But in regards to the controversial side of life, many years ago, I was working with a guy that I would have called a conspiracy theorist, because he tried to convince me that the moon landings were fake, which obviously I didn't take very well, because I thought, you know, I believe in the moon landings, everyone in the world believes in the moon landings, how could they be wrong, or how could this guy be right? But it turns out that he gave me some discs to go home with, one called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and the second disc was called Astronauts Gone Wild. Well, after watching both of them, immediately I became like him, and I had to go around and get all family and friends and make everyone watch it, which resulted in every person I knew that watched them documentaries completely feeling like the whole world had been lied to as well.
Yeah.
At that time wasn't too bad.
It's like they made a film, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. You went a bit quiet there, you did.
Can you hear me?
That's it, yeah, if you sit forward a bit, yeah.
Right, sorry. Okay. I'm saying it's like a film, isn't it? I mean, if you had also, there's no common sense how they could have had communication with the astronauts when you have a mobile nowadays, you can't get communication half the time on the mobile. So you're telling me that then it just doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah, it was more than a space race. It was absolutely disgusting what was done to the world, because we're talking £160 billion on one of the Apollo missions. That's a lot of money. That would house millions of people. That would feed millions of homeless. So the idea of two countries possibly having a space race, and that's why we were lied to, was a big disappointment for me. But moving on from there, a few years later, obviously I was quite young, but that same friend obviously then started trying to make out that, you know, when the 9/11 happened, that was, you know, an inside job. Well, I remember leaving school and going home when 9/11 happened. So of course it was a big part of my life where how I felt that day watching what happened. Well, obviously when he starts hitting me with that conspiracy, by the end of learning everything he told me and listening to it correctly, I had no choice apart from to agree with what he was telling me. And of course I believe that wasn't quite what the world had been told.
Yeah.
I suppose really, you know, they're very sore subjects, and from that point then I went to something called Truth Juice in Birmingham. Lots of people used to go there for special meetings, and you talk about controversial subjects, and there's lots of different subjects every week. We were doing different ones, and that was a good 8 years ago. I did that for quite a long time, and then of course I got to a point when I started getting into law, because I got sent to prison when I was younger. The police basically had me over. I wasn't a criminal. I was helping a friend, but I drove illegally without a license and insurance. I hadn't quite passed, but I got sent to prison for that. 4 months, you know, and a lot of people was really shocked to hear that off me and said, well, usually, you know, you get the first chance and second time you know, be done. Well, obviously they made an example of me. I learned my lesson, of course, you know, passed my test when I came out. But then, you know, I was only helping a friend that day, so I spent, you know, I got a 4-month sentence just because I went to help a friend. I only lived a couple hundred metres up the road. So it was a bit silly, but, you know, that happened. And of course, getting into the law, I went through a patch because I was quite young, you know, I was early 20s, and I didn't deal with things correctly, being quite young and hot-headed. I got angry knowing that we were all being lied to by the police and the governments, and it's really bad what's happening to us all. And I tried to inflict everyone to digest what I knew. My family behind my back were doing talks, and they were trying to look at maybe getting me help and possibly sectioned if that's what's needed, because they thought I was going off the rails. But really, you have to understand, sometimes when someone might appear crazy, it's because they have knowledge or intelligence of something you might not understand. And that's kind of what it was for them.
They look outside the box, basically.
Yeah. So I went to sleep for a few years.
You're given a label.
Yeah. I went to sleep for a few years, you know, just kept doing my research into history, science, you know, biology and stuff. All the things to do with anything, you know, I just loved everything to do with the earth and space and, you know, mysteries, religions. I went into all the stuff, you know, just a bit of everything. And
Sorry,
did that for many
Richard,
years up until the point.
Sorry, Richard, can I take you back even further? Because
Yeah.
I want to go all the way back to your childhood again.
Okay.
What kind of kid were you? Were you a kid like that was always looking at different ways of seeing things? And also, were you the kind of kid, as I say, like little Jared Durrell, where did you pick up animals and bring them home? And where did all
Yeah, I had some strange habits. You know, I had animals from a young age. In regards to what type of kid I was, you know, out of a group of friends, and I still am today. I'm kind of like the annoying leader. You know, if something I want to do, everyone's got to do it with me. And if I have a plan to go out for the day, everyone has to come along. And same for when I was a child, really. Then, you know, I was a very happy child. We had a good upbringing. I was known as a little fighter. You know, I was the youngest in my family, you know, out of my brothers and sisters. So there's 4 children, and I was the youngest. So I suppose being the baby turned me into, I don't know what it was, maybe a young fighter when I was younger. And I've been kind of known like that for a long time, and I don't know why. You know, that was my reputation or whatnot. And I suppose really it's the world we live in. It kind of led me down a road where I thought I had to be something I wasn't. And there's only 2 people in my life that would actually sit there and say they wish I was the little boy I used to be before being a teenager and a young adult. When I was a little sweet boy, you know, pretty boy as they called it, baby face, whatever. Going through, you know, as I get into my mid to late 20s, of course, having children, you start to grow up and get past that sort of lifestyle. I don't go out anymore.
You have children then?
Yeah, I have 3 children, yeah.
3? Oh my goodness. Okay.
The oldest, my daughter's nearly 8, and my youngest daughter will be nearly 4 months.
Oh, wow.
She's a COVID baby, believe it or not.
Oh my God. What did you call her?
Her name's Zara. It's the only time I've worn a mask throughout this whole, well, forever. It was when I go into hospitals and stuff, of course. I have respect and I want people to feel safe. So, yeah, we were obviously living in that era where a lot of people were really unsure how things are going to be for being in hospital, and you're seeing people have bad experiences not being with their partners and stuff. I will admit there was restrictions in the Worcester hospital I went to regarding times and stuff, but my experience and our experience was absolutely brilliant. You know, I can't knock it. The whole service we had there was fantastic. So hats off to everyone that we dealt with, you know, because they were brilliant. But I had heard some horror stories throughout COVID, of course, that people have had. Yeah, so my 3 children and stuff, of course, I had to try and wise up. I've always been self-employed from quite a young age. So I work for myself, always have done. And of course, you know, when you've got to find your money for yourself, because my dad died when I was younger, I have to find my own bills and stuff, and it's been difficult. I've had a difficult time, you know, with work and stuff, but I've got by and managed. Of course, 2020.
Can you tell us about what animals you rescued?
Loads, yeah. So on average, at least once a week, we'll have a bird brought. It's mainly seasons, so throughout the year, you have a couple of seasons where you will have lots of animals being dropped, you know, or lots of people contacting. But yeah, so mainly we get birds. I've had a few squirrels now. If an animal comes to us that's too injured and can't be saved, you know, it breaks my heart. It really does, you know, because we don't want to see anything put down. It's very rare, but we do have occasions where, you know, I've had animals brought to me that were actually dead when they passed me the box, and I've came inside and they're already gone. So we just do a burial with the kids. But yeah, most of the things that I was told that we might not be able to rare, you know, to bring up and to save, we actually achieved to beat what we were told. Even from having eggs from robins, you know, we were told by the experts it'd be near impossible. Well, out of 5, we had 3 live, and they lived in our garden. It was difficult, you know, it was very near impossible, really, but it was done. You just got to find new methods of making things happen. But yeah, we've had a great time with the animals, and of course, because of money and the amount of money I had to spend into food, bills for electricity, you know, you're looking at £3,000 for a quarter.
Where do you keep the animals? Do you have a proper animal refuge or at home?
Yeah, so outside I had a few sheds, aviaries. In the house we had vivariums in every room around the house. You know, I went crazy a bit, accepted everything, said yes to everything, we'll save anything. And then, just going to open the window a second.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, the animals have been a pleasure, but it got to a stage where I had to face the music and realise, you know, we had too many. So then I started, rather than trying to look into every person that I'd rehome to, and trying to go to their houses and just to make sure the animals are going to the right place. You know, I've been a bit more easy. Rather than going to people's houses, I'll do it through judgment. I have picked up animals from places where on site I would have to really hold back my other side, because I'd feel like I want to take everything they have animal-wise and just walk out and say, you're not having these, and, you know, what the hell are you doing with animals? I've seen some scary things out there, but, you know, you can't save the world. You can do all you can to help, and I did my bit with the animals, and I'll always do it, and the kids love it, and hopefully they will continue after me.
Sure. So it's really an interesting progression, because when you say you can't save the world, we're the kind of people that are going out there to do our best to make a better world for everyone, for the future, for your kids, for everyone. And so it's kind of a bit of a progression from what you're doing with the animals, but you do have to hold on to that conviction that you can only do your best. And that's why everyone together, to work together, this is where we go one, we go on, in a way.
That's right, yes. Which is a famous saying, and
it's incredible.
That's it. It's a famous saying, and we made sure that was on our top, where we go on. And a lot of people
get that from. That's beautiful. I want one of those.
Yeah, a lot of people say about Q, or where we go one, we go all, that, you know, it could be a bit of a distraction thing itself. Now, I would just like to throw out to everyone who might doubt Q or where we go one, we go all, the idea behind it, the ideology behind it, and what it stands for, whether it's completely real or not, what it stands for is everything. It's about everyone being together, standing for humanity and rights, and where we go one, we go all. So if we're going to go into a disastrous world, we go there together. If we're going to go into a new, fresh, beautiful world where our children can be happy and fair justice is done everywhere and everything's more equality, then we need to go there together. And that's what I believe with it also. We will carry that symbol from JFK and whatnot,
Yes. Yeah.
And wear it proudly.
Please God. So coming back again to, okay, so we spoke a little bit about the animals, and then we were talking about 9/11 and the progression. So carry on with that a little bit, and also talk a little bit about what happened when they locked us down, because that was the big wake-up call, I think, for all of us. And for me, I had a beautiful job and I got sacked because I knew this was a flu bug. I couldn't go along with it. So how did that affect you? How did you actually become what you are now? But how was the progression from finding out about 9/11 to what you're doing now, basically? Which is
so with that,
jump. But
I had to make a big puzzle on a wall, and obviously start off with, you know, we look at conspiracies. Conspiracies are usually based on a alternative agenda or something that people might be talking about a situation like JFK. Was it an inside job again? You know, these are sort of things that are labelled as conspiracies. I found within a lot of them that there was more behind them. So what my partner would say is that I've always been interested in sticks and stones. So history, science, you know, anything to do with documentaries. And of course, it's very interesting stuff. It's different. I've never been interested in sports and the usual things that most guys are into. I class them as distractions from reality, the real world. Everything kind of led to one thing to another. So, you know, I had to get deep into religion. It took a long time to get through as many of the mainstream religions to find out as much as I can about each one, so I can speak to scholars and experts and have debates with them, go to churches, mosques, whatever, and have debates with people and ask them about the mysteries that they might not have understood. It's been fun.
Sorry, can I explain that one? You didn't convert to all these different religions.
No, I'm not non-religious.
Yeah, like myself, you started to discuss. I was born Jewish, but then I started studying A Course in Miracles, which is all about the teachings of Jesus. And then I started talking to Muslims and all sorts of different, I just found that we all basically are the same. We all believe in the same thing. It all boils down to loving yourself and loving other people the same way, basically.
That's it. So if you imagine a pie chart, you imagine a pie chart and you've got all the religions around that pie chart and they've all got their own section. If you take away the lines, then yeah, they all believe in the same thing. It's being good, you know, God and whatnot. There's only one thing I would have liked to have achieved with all religions, and that was to bring them as one. One world religion would stop division. Division is the biggest thing on our planet that creates two people having a difference. And religions just play a big part in that, but you know, it's been going for a long time. We have over 4,000 religions. We have over 2,000 gods. It gets quite confusing, but you know, they're there, and we have to respect them. I just try to understand them. But everything led, all my research over the years, and 2020 popped up, and I was fooled by COVID immediately. And if I did go out the house to a friend's or anything, I'd come in quickly to the shower, you know, get clean and whatnot.
So sorry, say that again. You believed in it in the beginning, did you?
I did at the start, yeah.
Okay, how interesting. Okay, carry on.
So then, a couple of weeks in, I got back to normal within seeing friends. We'd have windows open now and sit away from each other just to, you know, respect the idea that this virus could kill any one of us and whatnot. But of course, again, during that time, doing a bit of research on the internet, and I think even most controversial researchers across the globe, them first couple of weeks, I don't think many people expected what happened to be possibly a false lie that we've all been told. You know, I don't think everyone realised at the time for the first couple of weeks, and then a lot of people started to come out of, you know, being worried and started to try and look past it, and it didn't take very long from there. So 2-3 weeks.
Just down. That was it for me.
That's it. 2-3 weeks in, I was making videos on the internet, on Facebook and stuff, explaining about, you know, my opinion regarding what I believe within masks and what's going on. But I had to do it very gently and slowly, because a lot of people I know immediately already know a lot of controversial subjects, but a lot of people would laugh. So going back a long time ago, putting up a post explaining what would everyone do when the crown of monarchy falls. Bit of a riddle, you know, and that would lead to understand that one day the monarchy might fall. And of course, you get a lot of people that will shake their heads and think it's ridiculous. But, you know, it was the same with COVID. I started to look past it, look through it. But I knew that it was dangerous. I knew that you couldn't sit there and say things to people without them getting upset or, you know, defending it. So I was quite alone at the start. But obviously a couple of months in, you start to see a lot more people popping up on the internet and a lot more posts that might be indicating that they don't believe in COVID. So immediately I started to become friends with more people that were kind of following that. My controversial subject group was quite small before COVID. You know, it was quite a small group of people that wanted to hear my, you know, things that I was into and the researches and stuff. And it was quite quiet, you know, but then obviously immediately the start of COVID is where I think a lot of people kind of connected, and it really took off. And at the moment now, I've got people all around the globe, really, I speak to, and I'm keeping in touch with. So.
Thank you. Can I stop you there? Because it's really interesting that you said this truther group, Truth Juice, that you spoke about, in Birmingham. Now, why? There seems to be quite a good group in Birmingham. There's quite a lot of people around that area that are awake. I mean, what do you think that is? Is there anything special in the area? Or?
A short while ago, somebody else from somewhere else in the country. They was on a site and they said that Bromsgrove seems to be the most woke place in UK.
Why?
I live here. That's why. I'm constantly in and out everywhere. I'm all, I've got a lot of friends in the town, so I suppose people feed off each other. So I believe there's a lot of people around here that got their heads screwed on. But in terms of population for Bromsgrove, we are still the minority. But amazing people around here, though, and people are slowly starting to see see through the COVID fog, which is important because it has been confusing. And I think my videos throughout the COVID, I've been putting on the internet and Facebook. They probably weren't important to start with, but now, even some people look back at them and they say you were making a very strong point back then, but now it's obvious. And I'm like, you just got to be drip fed. Yeah. Everyone's got to be drip fed, even myself. I've met people in the last couple of months that have blown my mind with knowledge and adjusting what I once knew. Even things I've been teaching people for a long time, I was like, wow, how do I ring everyone up and tell them what I told them was wrong? Yeah. I've learned so much more in the last few months. It's been amazing.
You have to be a certain kind of personality to be able to do that. And I'm not. I can do it through moving on TV. I can bring people on because my job as the media is to represent, all these different opinions. And I brought on doctors and everything that I knew. I brought on people to try and, and help the public. But as soon as I'm with someone that doesn't want to listen, I can't. I just have to walk away. I just don't have the patience. I don't have the patience. So maybe it's because you're obviously very patient. As if the way you looked after the animals, that shows a very gentle, very compassionate, very gentle, compassionate streak. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got 2 cats and I love them to bits. They're my babies. But I've never done anything like you've done. And I'm also a Leo and I'm an Indigo and I'm a fighter because I grew up in Israel. And so to me, when you know something and you really know it, you just want to go out there and you want to convert the whole world. And it has been a very difficult journey for me. And even my marriage was separated because I couldn't. My husband is not by any means a sheep, but, he's by no means. But it took him a while. I used to say to him, Trump's a good guy. And for years and years and years, I was saying, Trump's a good guy. He's doing his best and he's draining the swamp. Oh, no, don't want to know about it. And eventually, he's much better than Biden. You don't want Biden. And I thought, ooh, the penny dropped a little bit. But you tried to talk to him about the moon landings or 9/11 or Churchill. Or, he comes from a very British royal background. And also...
Say Churchill.
Pardon, can you hear it?
Did you say Churchill?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good one.
You try to talk to him about any of these things and the barrier goes straight up because he comes from a very, very British background. And once he came over here, I mean, to me, I've never had medication for anything for so long now that if anyone came towards me, you know what? They get it. And he was confronting me about Bill Gates and trying, I felt in a way goaded. So it just wasn't working. And so we separated at the moment and he's gone back to the family. And as far as I know, they vaccinate the kids. But so I had to let him go because for my own peace of mind. Actually, we're very happy. We're getting on better. We're getting on better now. After 27 years, we're getting on better. But we're not talking about this stuff. When I say to him things like, I'm going to Trafalgar Square and I've got to do this, that, and the other, he either just doesn't go there, he doesn't listen, just pushes it away. So anyway.
Not everyone understands, do they, you see?
Yeah. So luckily, you're the kind of person that can drip it nice and gently. With me, it would be just take your mask off, for God's sake. You idiot, you're going to get pleurisy. Sorry. Anyway, so carrying on with your story. Let's get you back.
Where was I what was we talking about that day? I think
You were saying you were dripping it to your friends and
yeah, certainly, yeah. So my
Find out
friends,
more,
in regards to a lot of them, for a long time, have had to listen to my crazy stories, as we'd call them. You know, even when I tried to explain to friends many years ago that the law that they are doing us all for in most cases, where, you know, whether you're speeding 2 miles per hour over the speed limit, silly little things were not law of the land. And it's difficult to try and get into their heads that there's 2 systems on across land, one of which is the maritime system, and it's the corruption side, and the other
Right.
one is, you know, the actual proper law courts, which is Crown Courts, etc.
Is this the
I just-
common law you're talking about? The system of the common law? The
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
Because that
So-
is something that I feel people have a right to really know about that. And
They should.
people don't understand it. And maybe we'll do a different program about that, because I feel that I really want to pass that on to everyone, what the common law is and what it takes away the fact that when you're born, you become a slave in a way. And then the common law is saying to you're not. So you don't have to abide by certain rules. But there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
As usual, it's the water is very muddy when it comes to that. But anyway, so can you use the common law around this COVID thing? I mean, have people got rights to say?
Yes, you can. You can use it. You can use it, but it's like a lot of it's terminology. So just what the government's doing with us, they use terminology. So when they say something is a new law, immediately everyone thinks, oh dear, we're in trouble. Well, you're not, because there's a lot of laws out there that they call law that you can't get in trouble for. You know, it's based upon your consent, whether you accidentally walk into the trap of them arresting you. I had to learn myself, because I never really had a great deal of help with people that would want to give you this sort of information. You know, you have to find things yourself. And of course, it's dangerous to give anyone information if it's not quite correct, and they might use it incorrectly and then it'll backfire on you. For me, all I'll say is, in my experience, it took me years to try and understand it, and I still don't understand it completely, because it's so confusing, it's so well thought of. It's quite dangerous how they use it against us. But for me to be able to say I have been abused by the system many a times, and then it came to a point over the last few years where being in court on more than one occasion where I beat the system by myself, without solicitors, without being represented. And magistrates will stand there and tell me, you're not going to get it adjourned today. This is the 4th time you've had it adjourned. We're dealing with it today. And I'll stand there and get it adjourned again. Yes, it was testing the water with things. And then to actually get to a point where you turn up at court and the police don't, and then they ask me to leave the court and say, go home, case is closed, without seeing a magistrate. That's when it kind of sunk in. Hang on a minute, they've closed the case, they've sent me home, and that's it. But I was summoned to court, and then they do it like that. And why? It's because they started to realise that I am constantly standing for myself, speaking for myself, as they say about the straw man. It just means that if they are not easily be able to manipulate words into you and out your mouth, etc., and for you to stand up and sit down when they ask you to, basically you are signing yourself into their contract, so, you know, being a beneficiary and whatnot, so they can start to use your bond, if you want, your birth bond, and start to take money from the system. It's all about money.
Of course, yeah.
It is all about money. And the second thing that magistrates courts do, they feed the prison system. If they go quiet, they'll put people through. Whereas the law side of the system, Crown Courts, will only send people down if they are truly guilty and whatnot.
Sure.
So the actual magistrate system is quite a good feeder. They like to feed prisons and fill them up when necessary, and stop sending people down when necessary. So it's not done by a justice system, it's done to feed. It's a feeding system. And the whole system that is there is basically what I class as a financial corporation, which is there for a benefit of them. It's never really to teach us a lesson, to say, look, you know, naughty boy, don't do that again. It's not about that. They want people to reoffend. In theory, that's the way they are. They're designed to make people reoffend.
Yeah.
There's no
Slaves.
setup for them to really make you a better person. It's not about that. It's about the money. So you'll always find it comes down to money. That's why in some countries you can just pay police officers off before even going to courts. And these things do happen, you know. So yeah, England's obviously quite tight with its layout on confusion to people. So the Common Law and Legislation Acts is something that people do need to look into yourself and take your time on it, because it'll only benefit you down the line.
This is the whole thing. You mentioned confusion. Okay, this is the whole thing. This is the problem with the way we're living now. Is I proved that the government never told anyone to wear a mask. I proved it. I did a whole program. First of all, it's a legislation, it's not a law. And I studied a little bit. I was in a wheelchair for 4 months and I started studying the law. And it has to go through loads. You know, you have to put a bill forward. And this is just the legislation. You can't just create a law just like that. So anyway, you don't have to wear a mask. They said a face covering. Now, face covering could be this. That's a face covering. That's a face covering. And most people are exempt if it causes you a little bit of panic even. But the problem is that I went to Pizza Express the other day on my way back from Birmingham. Okay, they're all innocent, walk in like a goddess with no mask, because that's the way I always do it. Sat down to have a meal, and this waitress comes up to me with this mask as usual, and says to me, "Oh, you've got to wear a mask." I said, "No, I don't." I said, "I'm exempt." And then she said to me, "Well, then you've got to do the track and trace. That's how we do it now." And I thought, no, I'm not doing that. What, you mean I can't have a meal without you doing a track and trace? No. And that's the problem, Richard. Where are they getting these laws from? I've walked into Costa and these poor people are wearing masks. And I say to them, you don't have to wear a mask. And then they said, "Oh, I'll get sacked. My boss said I have to wear a mask." I said, "No, you don't. Because if you get sick, and unfortunately you will, because masks are going to make you sick because you're breathing in your own germs all the time. And if you went to school, you learned that we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide. So now all you're doing is breathing everything back in. You're not getting any oxygen. So you're likely to get pleurisy, bronchitis, all these things. But when you go to the government complaining for compensation, you will not get a penny, because they said, do not wear a mask. And they look at you like you're mad. So I say to them, who told you to wear a mask? Is it the media? People are just wearing masks when the government actually said you don't have to wear a mask. So what's going on? Why are people wearing masks?
Well, they've changed the goalpost more than once. So 1 minute, put a mask on, next minute, take it off, and then next minute, they're healthy, and the next minute, they're not. They have changed it quite a few times.
You do know that, before the lockdown, on the government papers, they admitted that this is not a contagious bug. And you can actually go on the government website. It says this is not a contagious bug. Even the CDC admitted it. And as I said, on the government website, if you go through that, and as I said, I did that on Moving On TV, no one has to wear a mask. They're supposed to be wearing face covering. So who is going out with these little nappy things? How did the whole masks thing start when, as I said, the government never said to wear a mask? Was that the media? Was that the media that promoted a lie?
They work together, don't they? That's the problem. They work together, and that's why you will never get the mainstream media telling the truth, because they're doing it off money. Everything is a script, and that's the problem, I know I've heard a lot that Trump apparently is signing deals and trying to put an end to the false censorship on medias, and he's also trying to, I've seen it in my own eyes, he points out the bad media in America, and Matt does a very good job of that. There's a lot of bad media out there, but there's also a few good ones that you know, you just got to point them out and find it out. I've got a good list I have now of some of the local media companies and the false things they pull out, so we can remember when we bump into them, and we can hit them with what they did. So
you've actually got positive media. I mean, I'm not talking about the truth media. Obviously, we've got Fox do put out a lot of good stuff about Trump. But in this country, are you saying that there's actually a positive media? I mean, apart from all we've got is ITV and BBC and Sky.
Actually, mainstreams, yeah. But
so who is good media?
I won't say
me.
Yeah, I won't say the company names obviously on here, but there are quite a few medias that are they got a high following base. We're talking 4 million.
Right.
So I know that's not the same as ITV and BBC, but there are a few media companies that go to these events and then report false information. So that's the point. We've got a lot of companies out there that are media that are really being paid to put out a narrative that's not quite true to the masses that will see it. So, you know, if someone small like myself and all these other people that are going out there and being a part of the truth and being actually involved with what's actually bloody going on there, not just turning up for 10 minutes, getting your camera out and doing a quick video and that, and then putting it in, you know, on the news. You know, we're actually there and we've seen what was happening. If I thought for a minute you had a load of mob people kicking off and just being idiots towards the police, I would have walked away, or I would have just you know, left them to it. I was in a different situation and I can't walk away from that.
Well,
you know,
as I said, I filmed the 29th and I filmed the 19th, both. The 19th of September, I got cut off, thrown off YouTube, and I showed as much as I could. But I personally, I walked away before all the violence started, but then I went to Gaza. I went to Gaza's hub by Downing Street.
Yeah.
And I saw the truth. I saw they were doing very little. I was talking to them. People were chatting to them. And, you know, the thing is that I also, when this all started, I started to see people being arrested. Women were being arrested in Hyde Park by the police. Police never wore masks, ever, ever, ever. And I contacted the Met and I said to them, first of all, can you tell me if this is such a serious bug or a pandemic, how come you're not wearing the mask? That was the first thing. And then the second thing I said to them, why are you arresting people all over the place, women and elderly? They said, no, we're not. I said, yes, you are. And they said, where are you seeing this? On YouTube. Oh, that's all made up. That's all lies. I said, no, it's not, because I've been there and I filmed it myself. And I said, you really need to come back with some answers. So that's what their answers were. They were actually denying what we were seeing with our own eyes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Seeing it, it's 100. If anybody types in to search for the information about how many police officers have had COVID or died from COVID and all these sort of things, it's quite funny, really, how they, you know, COVID didn't really have the taste for police officers.
Yeah.
You know,
or
and
supermarket attendants either.
Yeah, I'd like to say that Boris was part of the plan at the start and did the old "I've got COVID" lie, and Trump is doing the end version to say, "Yeah, I've got my COVID." A few days later, pops up and says, "Yeah, killed it with whatever," and whatnot, and shows everyone how to deal with it.
Sorry, Richard. When was that? When did Trump say he had COVID?
Today, Trump and Melinda have tweeted, and the whole world know already that Trump has and his wife have now got COVID, and they're going to isolate for a week or two.
All right, and then they're going to heal it with hydroxychloroquine.
No doubt, in a couple of 3 days, he'll be back out, which is what I'm hoping for. It's one of the theories that are being thrown around. I did a little video earlier I put on Facebook regarding what Boris Johnson has said. So I'll tell you what Boris Johnson said. He said he'd spoke to Donald Trump in the morning. They were speaking together, and that he hopes he has a what's the word he used now? I'll get this right. He hopes he I can't believe I forgot what I was saying now. On the video, basically, he makes out like it's a planned recovery.
Okay, well, we know
lost the word. But it's worth a watch anyway, because it's a bit of a sign in itself. A staged recovery.
everything that Trump does, that he does for a reason. So that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
he's saying he's got COVID and Melania's got, but we are
Could be a sign, couldn't it?
perfect timing. What does Q say about it?
I have a friend who is the Q specialist. He has all the immediate, sites for that. So he gets all the information, and they try to keep me updated with stuff. It's getting me to listen when I'm in the middle of dealing with things. So on the Q side and Trump, Jassar and Nassara, all of that is what I would say something I will pray for being true. But I'll also leave it in the little box at the back thinking, that ain't here now, that is not in front of us helping us. So I won't pray and wait for no one to come and save us and to change everything for us. You've got to do your bit. And maybe that's what they're calling out for, everyone in the world to wake up and see what's going on, so we can join the resistance of tyranny.
But as I say, everything that Trump does, there's a message, and it's leading towards...
Yeah, he's brilliant. I've seen so many.
And finishing the cabal. So, between you and me, they've said that in order to have a recovery in like a couple of days, and then they'll come out and say, guess what we had? Hydroxychloroquine and vitamin C, and we went on the beds, and then because if he says it, then maybe more people will wake up. I don't know. I never even knew that this was happening because I'm not watching anything. Whatever the news tell you anyway, it's probably a lie anyway. Probably, So, I mean, what do you think it is? Because as I say, a lot of people are going to get panicky now and think it's true, aren't they?
Well, let's hope it's a staged event. Like I say, I think Trump's doing it for a reason. I don't think for 1 minute he has got anything under this impression that we call COVID, dangerous, deadly disease that you have to have a test for to see if you've got. I know he knows as well as we do what's what with it, and he will probably use this to show the world whatever. But we'll see. If he turns around and, disappears for 2 weeks, there's a possibility, of course, there's reasons why things are going on. He has warned everyone that is to disappear at some point, because there's a lot of angry people out there that who don't like him.
There've been loads of attempts on it.
I think he's trying to end the COVID, but again, why are they all spending money into the vaccine scenario?
What, in America?
Yeah, they're doing it everywhere. So Trump's got his guys on the vaccine.
Yeah, because his vaccine is something completely different. Did you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so his cure for COVID, I'm hoping, is
hydroxychloroquine.
Well, not even that. I'm thinking the real disease, COVID, the real COVID disease and the virus is politicians, world leaders, anyone who's a part of that plan. They're the real disease and the real virus. And that's it. The pandemic is real.
Well, from my research, a virus is not contagious. You can't catch a virus.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah. I
had a long conversation. I was supposed to interview Kevin Corbett, but he was really busy. He explained it all to me because he was on the AIDS ward with Diana. And what he said to me is they tried to do the same with AIDS. And then Diana went and hugged everyone. So she broke it, and they couldn't, because they were trying to convince people that AIDS could be transmitted through everywhere, through touch and hug and everything. So they tried then. That's when they first tried this, because AIDS and this thing that was never isolated is actually part of you. Cancer is part of you. Every single disease is part of you. Cancer is in your body. You happen to be very low, then it will actually show up. Whatever this is, it's actually part of you. And when your immune system is very, very low, then you get the symptoms. And the symptoms are the same as a cold, bronchitis. Women in particular, when they go through the menopause, your temperature goes up and down, up and down. So all you need to do is build up your immune system. End of. even hydroxychloroquine is just, it's a drug, and yes, it can help like an aspirin, and it will heal people that want to take it, but it's not the answer. You're going to get more bugs and more bugs and more bugs. You have to build up your immune system. That's all it is. You cannot, if you get sick, people say to me, people get sick all the time with COVID. It's impossible to get sick from something that was never actually isolated.
Yep.
It's not a real illness. It's a low immune system. And they've given it the name COVID. So they're saying Trump's got COVID. There's something behind it. Like Boris got COVID. There's something behind it. And I'll have to do more research. But my intuition is saying to me that we're getting closer and closer to finding the answers now to ending this bug. It will come to an end because too many people are waking up. But as I said, talking to Kevin Corbett, and he is a doctor and a scientist, he explained the whole AIDS to me. And he said people that got AIDS, they were totally too promiscuous. They abused their bodies and they made themselves sick. And that's it. Their immune systems were very low. Dr. Sebi, who unfortunately they knocked off, said everything is mucus. And every single holistic therapist that I've spoken to since this outbreak has healed people with vitamin C, quinine, which is grapefruit. You can make your own hydroxychloroquine. And zinc and vitamin C. Relaxing, getting the sunshine, vitamin D. And everything. I'm saying that everything is mucus. Every single disease, I say disease because it means you're getting a dis-ease. You're diseased in some way. Everything is mucus. So if the mucus is building up in your body, you will get a false positive for something that can't be tested. And that's coming from a scientist, as I say, that worked on the AIDS ward. And so as far as I'm concerned, he confirmed everything I'm saying. So when you see people saying we've got COVID, you can't have it because it was never isolated. And you can't test for something that wasn't isolated. And also, as I say, viruses are not contagious. You cannot give someone a virus.
Well, I could say something about a different theory adding into AIDS. Now, I'm not quoting this as a fact because I've not actually gone deep into the research of this, but during my travels with the controversial friends, I know something about the Bibles, and obviously the Ethiopian Bible still has the book of Enoch and possibly Gilgamesh. And if they are still in the Bible, which I believe they are, it was probably the last Bible on the planet to still have the book of Enoch in it, which is dangerous to the rest of the religion power structure.
Okay.
They asked Africa and Ethiopia numerous times to have it removed, and apparently they didn't because it's one of the oldest Bibles that we have. Now, after this apparently happened with the Vatican trying to make them remove it, and they wouldn't or whatnot, I don't know the full ins and outs, but apparently that's when AIDS not long after popped up. So we're talking, I think it around about 19 something, because when AIDS first came into play, 1940s to 50s maybe, I can't remember exactly. Well, I should have looked into that, but so around that sort of time was apparently when they tried to get them to remove that from the Bible, and it might have just been another attack. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if it was. You know, alchemy has been around for a long time, and it isn't just used for the good. You know, they can use alchemy for bad, and these power leaders, you know, anyone who gets more powerful who's below them, it's a threat. You know, and this is the game they all live in. So they will use alchemy, and they will use all sorts of stuff. You know, make new diseases, make new whatnot, and I just think it's another part of their structure that they have for us, like, you know, because there are certain things that, of course, will come. You know, asteroids can pass the Earth, and they can give new viruses and whatnot, and you can get new thing. There's lots of reasons why we can get stuff. You know, bad conditions where you live and stuff like that can
Exactly. But this all lowers your immune
engineers
system.
and stuff.
Stress lowers your immune system.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful immune system. And I believe you can prevent and heal everything. And I've seen proof without medicine. I've seen it. And to me, doctors are now redundant. And they've proven how disgusting they are. I think they should all be struck off, every single one of them, because of the fact that they know and they won't stand up like Dr. Adil and Dr. Urzo and those that are standing up. Doctors are just being paid to do nothing.
Well, here's something for you.
On the NHS,
a lot of people believe that the medical era, that's what we live in, the medical era. We've both grown up in a medical era. Now, I have never been a medical person. I don't take tablets for illnesses and stuff. I had my partner give me tablets once when I was really bad. I think I'm not sure what I had, but I was really bad. And then the tablets she gave me resulted in my fingernails falling off and my skin falling off.
Oh my God.
Hands and feet. Yeah. I had a 1 in 18,000 people reaction. A friend of mine called Ian, who's one of the team, going back during COVID at the very start, he started taking zinc tablets because people told him it's good and it'll help fight COVID. And I was at his house and he swallowed one. He goes, "You want one?" And I was like, "Okay," swallowed it, thinking it's some sort of Holland and Barrett, vitamin tablet. I thought I don't really go out and wait for it, but I'll have one. And then I was nearly hospitalised off one. My body's not built for him. But we live in a medical era.
Rubbish. Holland and Barrett is rubbish.
People think that people live longer now because of the medical help. It is incorrect. You can go back through history, hundreds and thousands of years, and you can see what age people live to through bones. They can test their health. And even far back as Mesopotamia and Egypt, people would live to 100 years plus. It wasn't unknown.
Exactly.
But the way the masses are, what we know as the foundation to a hierarchy system for governments, monarchy, religions, and banking systems, all of them are the top. We are the foundation. And we will die when technically they say our population's overgrowing. Okay, they will feed us more medication and more other things to slow that down. They have their ways. The best way of winning a war is by the opponent not knowing he's at war. And that's kind of how they play with us. The same with the law,
Yeah.
Technically what they do to us to punish us, they have to get our consent generally. You have to walk into it without knowing. It's all terminology. And it's a bloody trick game that they made it so the public don't know.
They've conditioned us. They've conditioned us from the time we were born to be as you said, to be slaves. And I believe that you don't have to get old. I believe you can get younger. It's all here. I believe in, and I also believe that, like you said, why do you have to die when you get to a certain age? You might be able to go on and on. The body might be able to regenerate itself for all we know. We don't know. This is the thing. I think that they withheld a whole lot of stuff from us. In my personal opinion, is the whole of the cabal and all of this stuff is some kind of alien archon that took over, and particularly in the 60s when JFK said, "Who are the Greys and why are they here?" And I think that they basically sold us out, and these Greys gave them everything: time travel, healing, everything that we don't know yet. They gave it to them, and they withheld everything from us, and they gave and they carried on their experimentation that they did in the concentration camps with ordinary people. That's what cancer treatment is. Chemotherapy, continuously guinea pigs. Everyone became a guinea pig, and I lost family because of it. But that woke me up. I woke up around medicine. I just knew that this was wrong. And when I watched my mother being poisoned continuously with chemo, and I just said, why can't she have any nutrition or any counseling? They gave her nothing. And because she lived in another country, in Israel, and I lived over here. But every time I would go back to Israel, I would give her Reiki, I would change her diet, and I would give her so much love that she would come out of it. And then as soon as I had to come back to England again, that was it. And it was like a progression. You could see when she came out and when she went into remission, because she didn't have enough love. And they weren't giving her anything to counteract all the crap they were giving her. And for years and years and years, my consciousness around medicine changed in my late 20s, because I met someone, became my mentor. His name was Keith Bascom, and he healed my spastic colon, IBS, in a couple of weeks with homeopathy and changing my diet. And he was doing all this kinesiology. I thought he was mad. I didn't know what the hell I'd walked into, but that's where my education started. And when it got to a point, as I say, my big story was after Mum died 10 years ago, instead of giving me a diagnosis of grief, they gave me a label, borderline personality disorder. And I ended up, as I said to you, I wouldn't take medication. There was no way they were going to put anything near me, because I knew I'd get sick like you, boom, sick so quickly. So I said, no way, I'm not destroying my health. And somehow I was so lucky, because the psychiatrist that I had seen, she said to me, I know you study A Course in Miracles, which is all about love versus the ego. And I said, yeah. She said, well, if you won't take medication, do you want to go into something called the therapeutic community? And I thought, what's that? And she said, well, you go in there for 3 days a week. So it costs nothing. It's on the NHS, and you go in there with 20, 25 people. And I thought, oh, yeah. And then she said, you get a 24-hour support system. I thought, right, that's it, I'm in. It was hell, Richard. It was like...
Could you tell me about...
anything like it in my life.
Tell me about that thing with the all the children in Israel that you was doing something with.
The children in Israel?
Yeah, a few hundred children or something.
Children's peace film, yeah. That wasn't in Israel, that was here.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
After I came out of the therapeutic community, but I was just very quickly going to say, my story is in a book called Simply Amazing. And there is a program on Moving on TV called Two Awake Blondes, and I can send that to everyone. You can watch my story, it's all on there. But the crux of the story was that I woke up after a year in there, and I realized because they tried to get rid of me all the time because I wouldn't conform. I didn't know how to conform. I was an Israeli, I grew up in Israel, I was in the army, I'm Irish, but I grew up there. And so I fought and fought. But one day they tried to get rid of me. And that's when I had this huge awakening. And I went home that night and I had a night terror. And I woke up and I said to my husband, don't let me go back. And that was the light bulb I needed, because when I was a child, I was abused continuously by the family dentist. Not raped, but abused in every other way. Thank God, And my parents kept sending me back continuously. So I never knew that the child blames themselves for everything. And so that's what was causing me to be what they called mentally ill. It was shock. And the minute I realized it, boom, I had a massive spiritual awakening, total inner peace. And when I walked out of there, they gave me a standing ovation. So the first thing I did when I came out of the community is I made the film writing the song for peace. I got together, and no money, never had any money. Somehow I did a raffle and I got 500 quid. I wasn't able to film in those days. I knew nothing about editing or filming. I was a musician, a writer, a singer. I wrote this song called If I Believe Peace, and I translated a bit into Arabic and Hebrew and English, and I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to go, like you said, bring everyone together through the children. So I went into my local synagogue, first of all. I got Rabbi Romain on board, and he's very into faith. And then he brought the mosque. And then I went to the schools, and one school led to another, and then the Quakers and Buddhists. And And I got all of them together. They're all in the film. And you can see like all these kids sitting there. And I went into the mosque and I taught them the colors of the rainbow, which is red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, indigo, and violet too. To the boys, the teenagers, these Muslim teenagers in Hebrew. That's me. I taught them that we're all the different colors of the rainbow. And I made this film with a guy called John Bucknell, because as I say, I couldn't edit or anything. We made this film called Writing the Song for Peace. And there were, as I say, it's about 1,000 kids in it, because from the schools and then when you put them all together. Now, I made the film went out everywhere. I think we got about 20,000 views on YouTube, and that's it. And then it died completely. Because when I tried to take it anywhere further, I couldn't get it. Also, there's a child on there, an Israeli child, talking to her Palestinian friend saying, be my friend. So I went, and also I'd been to Wad al-Salam, but they weren't in that film, but I did talk about it. I talked about everything. I talked about the fact that I'd been to Wad al-Salam, which is, it's a town in Israel, a village near Jerusalem, where you bring up the children are Palestinian and Jewish, and they're brought up together. And it's just an incredible place. And my whole consciousness was that. But the minute, as I said, I did that, and then I also started to go out there and talk about using the stage. I went all over the country as Edith Piaf, you know, no, yeah, you know, and I talked about her mental breakdowns and her life story. And I do the breakdowns on the stage. And then I stood there in front of the audience and I said, right, that was her. I'm selling out Edinburgh. I'm living with a whole lot of people. And every night we sell out Edinburgh. We got 5-star reviews. And I have this BPD thing, all right? And look at me. That's the difference. And then I told them I recovered in a therapeutic community on the NHS for free. And they all look at me, what are you talking about? No meds. What are you talking about? I said, you can go to your doctor, because every Tom, Dick and Harry has been diagnosed with BPD. It's Cloud Cuckoo Land. It's, I wrote a song about it, and it goes, a little bit of agoraphobia, a little bit of OCD, a little bit of claustrophobia. That's BPD. Or love, depression, laced with it's all about me. Narcissism. A couple of Tourette's now. What comes next? That's BPD. I've written a whole musical.
Right.
A little bit of autism, a little bit of AD or ADHD, a cup of paranoia. You're looking at me? That's BPD. Now add in schizoid tendencies and make it all about me. Narcissism. A spoon of manic states, got a lot on our plates with a monkey brain that I cannot train. That's BPD. It's all about me. An OCD, a PTSD.
Very good. You should do theatre.
And it's in the musical I wrote. So
have you ever done theatre, have you?
I wrote, yeah, theatre. I have my own theatre company. As I said, I sold out Edinburgh with Piaf standing on the stage. So this condition, BPD, is the fibromyalgia of the mind. If they can't find a reason, it means you're human. It means you're shocked. It means you've been abused. It means you've had everyone has been diagnosed. Everyone I know who in the community with me, their family didn't love them. My family don't love me. They cut me off ages ago when my father died. So you're basically in shock. And then think about it, Richard. You're going out there and you're selling out your show in Edinburgh. And years ago, I would have been all over the media. Jules Holland would have put me on because I sold out Edinburgh, the Fringe. I sold out Henley. I sold out Brighton with my own one-woman show. Had another piano player with me. Then I did Maria Callas, you know, the opera singer. She also had depression because my voice is trained. And then, why do you think they didn't put me on? I went to a Ruby Wax forum and I stood there and I said to her in front of everyone, Ruby, You need to know this. I recovered from a serious mental illness because people are drowning in medication from this condition called borderline personality disorder without medication. Do you know what? Do you want to know how I did it? Are you telling people to do it? No. I went to the doctor and I went into a therapeutic community free on the NHS for 18 months. And I recovered in there. We ran the community. We had a validation bell. So, I made a film called How to Stay Sane in the Crazy World. I'll send it to you. You can put it on because it teaches people, if you can't cope, you ring a bell. I'm sorry, I can't cope today. Guess who rang the bell all the time? Me. But the thing is, I recovered. And if it wasn't for that time in the community, I would now be behind the couch with a mask and a shield, and I wouldn't be going anywhere. But I recovered, and I learned what I needed to learn. And bit by bit, my consciousness opened up and up and up, and I've been through hell because they wouldn't let me work. Now, why do you think they wouldn't let me work? Well, because I'm telling them not to take medication.
Yeah.
Since I started that, I noticed my life became worse and worse and worse. Everything, I'm not kidding you. I tried to adopt, couldn't adopt. Wherever we tried to move to, better conditions, buy anything, get on the media, everything, Richard, at theatres, no one would let me on. It became to a point where I thought I'm cursed. But now I know what it is. It's because I'm telling you now, and I'm telling everyone, I put my life on the line every single day. You see me, I break completely when the whole world is mad and I'm hurting and I've broken. And now, look at me. I'm eating again. I went back to eat again very quickly because I'm following what they taught me in the therapeutic community. I'm following. Don't get too hungry, too angry, too lonely. That's hard these days, but too tired. Those are your 4 things that you need to do. And it's all in a film called How to Stay Sane in the Crazy World. So the children's peace song went nowhere. My shows ended because they wouldn't let me perform anywhere, and all they wanted was my money. So I even got to Leicester Square, a 5-star review, standing ovation. I went on the night my father died, and that's another big story. And I got a massive standing ovation because the show must go on, as Dad taught me. I've been on the stage since I was 6, playing the accordion. But you see, if everything was blocked the minute I said this. And as I say, I lay everything on the line. You do not need medication for this cloud cuckoo land thing, borderline personality. It's not bipolar. Bipolar is I have the traits where it's too this way or too that way. But BPD just is traits. It's traits. And you can heal it with, first of all, you have to do what you love. You have to get up every day and you have to know that you're doing what you love. Regardless of money, regardless of lockdown, get out there, start your own YouTube channel. It doesn't matter. Do what you love. And I know, I've always known what I love. So I'm very lucky. I'm an entertainer and a speaker and a writer. So I know what I love. So you have to do what you love, but you have to, as I say, you have to eat, you have to drink water, you have to take care of your nutrition, your mind, body, and your spirit. And if people you're around don't validate you, that's the hardest bit, you see. And that's really hard now because people have gone, a lot of people I know that are waking up, they haven't got their families anymore. People have cut them off right, left, and center. So it's very hard now because the biggest thing to the recovery from this condition was the bell. Think about it. These are all people that were never validated. No one cared about them. No one cared about what they wanted. Me too. No one cared about your feelings. No one validated your talents. This is obviously before I went and did all my touring. So you have a bell and you go into the therapeutic community, and the minute you get triggered, you ring the bell, you say help. And everyone comes and sits around you, the staff and everything. They say, how can I help you? I'm not kidding you. You didn't know. No one knows. Don't you think that is a travesty of justice? That the UK don't even know that they had, I don't know about now, obviously because of this nonsense, but they had something called therapeutic communities. And you'd sit there and they'd say to you, how can I help you? Can you imagine? How can I help you? The whole of the center would sit down with you and say, how can I help you? What's wrong? And I'd say, well, I got triggered today. You know, I feel a bit strange, you know, because someone was banging doors and it reminded me of the wars. I grew up in wars, and so I got triggered. How can we help you? And what would you like? Would you like to go for a walk? Would you like a cup of tea? With me was go and do the washing up because it grounds you. Do the washing up, Lauren. And so, you know, and I was so frustrated because I couldn't tell anyone. I was shocked. Everybody knew, they'd see this massive change in me. They saw I was completely different. My marriage was working, everything was working when I came out. And then everything deteriorated because I wasn't allowed to work. Bit by bit, everything deteriorated. Then I started working, I started singing for the elderly. I used to go around all the homes, and then it started again. Boom, no, they wouldn't employ me anymore. It was weird. And then I got...
It's an attack.
It just went like that. Then I got an amazing job. I've heard of lots of people that have gone through this. Simon Parks, they attacked him directly. If you watch Simon Parks, he was being attacked directly from because he was so enlightened. They had to try and push him down all the time. With me, it was through my life. Thank God they didn't touch this. I'm very protected. I've got lots of angels and lots of love around me. But then I got an amazing job, activity officer, and I was doing music and making films with elderly, 90-year-olds, everything, because I believed that they had the right to do everything. As soon as this thing struck, I thought, I can't go along with it. I can't not hug them. They've got no one. And these people were being demoralized the same way as the Nazis did to the Jews. I mean, I was wide awake from day one. So they sacked me on the spot. That was the end of my job. Everything that I built up, I mean, one day I sat in Tesco, this time last year, I sat in Tesco and I started writing a new musical about mental health recovery. And I got a parking ticket because I was there for over 6 hours because I had nowhere to go. I used to go to the Samaritans. I have no family. My husband was working, and I was already on a consciousness where I couldn't sit with people when they were talking about celebrities and the royal family. I couldn't do it this time last year, you know, for years now. So I went to my local council, and they opened the local community center and said, okay, Lauren, what do you do? And I said, I'm going to do workshops around Encounters, my new musical for people with depression during the day. So they gave me that, and they gave me grants, and then boom, the lockdown happened. And I was literally left with nothing, all my work, everything. So then I started doing Facebook Lives, and I said something I shouldn't have said, which I don't know if I probably shouldn't say it on here, but when everyone was saluting the NHS, you can imagine what I said. I got cut off for 77 days. They put me in prison.
Wow.
So I went back to do Moving On TV.
One thing I'd like to try and squeeze in, because we've probably got about 5-10 minutes because the dinner's just being dished up. But what it was, obviously I appreciate that you told us about a little bit about your experience when you were younger. And I've had to hear a few stories in my time where, you know, it's very hard to take in. For me, I know how real it is out there. I know how bad it happens, and I know the depth of how bad it can happen in satanic ritual abuse and whatnot. Murder, a lot of things happen to children across the globe. Not a lot of people in the masses know how serious it is, and that's why these companies called Save the Children, Save Our Children, everything on Facebook, they were real. They get the message out. And they were being shut down by Facebook and other platforms because they were spreading what's known as dangerous truth. Because when people know how bad it is out there, they really shouldn't be worrying about watching their normal soaps and football things and stuff like that they used to. this whole planet now needs a good clean. There's very dark stuff going on, and it needs to be slowly drip fed to people so they know that there is such a dark world around us all, and children is the highest of our list. The highest of our list, whether that's leaving the children with a decent planet or to stop the abuse that's happening across the globe. And we're talking every day there's thousands of children that are being abused in one way or another.
It's more than that, Richard. It's more than that, because I have to say that you cannot touch a child. You can't. You mustn't.
That's it.
Must protect. This is, as I say, my gut, and it hurts. But you'll never be the same after you go through pedophilia. Never. And the younger the child is, the more, I'd say it's a really young child is so trusting. They trust the adult.
I don't know.
And the confusion. All I know is I went into complete shock. And I don't want to go in. My story's out there. It's in the book. I thought I killed the guy, as I say.
I had tears when he was telling me this.
11 years old, he was having an orgasm.
I know how real it is.
Like mad. Had to keep that in my heart because I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I got sent back. The parents sent me back again. But the minute he opened the door, he was alive. And it was like, oh my God, I can breathe again. And you walk back into that trap because you just don't know. You're just so young, and deep down inside you think, oh, it's going to be all right now, and then he does it again and again. But what I'm saying is, not have children in school like 6 years old learning about a condom. This is so sick. This has to end.
They sexualized everything.
You can't put the connotation of sex anywhere near a child. Look, when a young woman is going through puberty, I had this big discussion with a boy her age. They're experimenting, the kids experimenting. That's different. But some old piece of, a 20-year-old and a child, that is just sick and manipulation because they're so trusting. Young people are trusting. I remember when I was working with them for the Children's Peace Song, and my heart went out to them. They would do anything for me. They said, do you want to learn this harmony? Yeah, la, la. They're so trusting. And I numbed the whole thing. I didn't even, I used to say to people, oh, he touched me a little bit. That was it. I didn't even know how much it had affected me until I became a Reiki healer. And then it was whoosh, it just came out. And the whole of my marriage, luckily my husband was amazing. He was the first person I said to him, oh my God, I was on Childline. I was 33, I think. And I rang Childline and I said, oh my God, I was abused. And that's when my journey started. And it took, it took about 10 years to get to the level where I woke up in the therapeutic community and realized that I was carrying this with me all the time. And now, it's layers, because of the lockdown. You go back into a lot of this. You do, because we're living in a very dangerous time, very crazy, very scary. But my big message is, you touch a child, you're like a rabid dog. Just get out of society. I don't want you here. Because that is it for that.
They just need switching off. Gone.
Because that is it for that child. And a lot of people that were abused, I know someone who was raped when she was 3 years old by her father's friend. She thinks it's her fault, for God's sake, and she goes around punishing herself all over the place. But the thing is that this is just, as I say, this is just insane. They are like rabid dogs, as far as I'm concerned. If you find, like you with your animals, coming full circle, if God forbid you had an animal that was hurting your children or hurting the other animals, it would have to be put down. There's no difference. We don't want them in society. And even though a lot of people have been abused, they don't abuse. They don't abuse. Most people that I know that were molested or abused, and as I say, that was every single person, that was diagnosed with this condition in the community had been abused. That was the thing we had in common, all of us, one way or another, physically, sexually, emotionally, or everything. And they are not abusers. Not one of them went out to be an abuser. So when one of those does what they do, they're either doing it for money or they're doing it because they're sick. And it's a sickness. And when you have a sickness like that, as I said, it's the same as shooting a dog. What's the difference? And I will stand.
Well, that's it. The problem at the moment is, if you can track and trace a virus, we can track and trace paedophiles, but they never have and they never would have. The fact that they're making the laws change to bring the age down for these things, and they really do protect. That's why I call them the paedophile governments, because they protect the paedophile systems that are within them. And there's something very dark going on. We need to bring it to an end. Like I say,
because they wanted to bring in paedophilia. That was their next step.
Yeah.
You know, okay, they had transgenderism for babies and children, which is insane. And I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I think it's wrong. You know, you cannot become a woman and I can't become a man. It's impossible. We're so different. But that's my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion, right? Regardless of what anybody else says. People have cut me off a lot when I've said that. The next progression was pedophilia. And then that's how they were going, that lot. And it's not going to happen. They're going to get past us. They didn't realize how much we love our children.
That's it. We'll try and finish on a good note. We definitely do another show. But obviously our main point will be to everyone that it is real. It's happening. As well as this COVID stuff, everyone's got to look into things more. And of course, Lauren's got lots of shows and books and stuff, and there's all sorts of stuff that Lauren's got, so please have a look into her properly, because, you know, this is real. And she's had her experiences from, as she just said, and this is where, I know there's a lot of people out there that would never have come forward with their situations. I've had a few people contact me, and it's horrible. The more I know, the more I have to digest, and I know that we need to put this planet straight, because it is not good. And
you're here to teach for the what children. You learn, Richard. Sorry, I believe I'm a starseed. I believe you are too. I came here to suffer. Unfortunately, I've suffered the hell.
You have to suffer to know what it is.
And so have you, in order to teach people how to feel. Because when they start to feel, then they'll wake up. You can't feel. You have to feel. You can't heal before you feel. You can't. And the thing is that, unfortunately, there's huge connection between all these people that they diagnose, this really pisses me off, with mental health issues, are people that have been abused. Because instead of taking care of them and giving them love and giving them a
child system,
they give them drugs, and they give them a label. You can't work, you can't adopt, and that's what I'm fighting against. I want BPD eradicated. It's not a real mental illness, and as I say, I'm willing to put myself out there and prove it.
Definitely keep doing it, and we'll.
Yeah, it's not bipolar. It's just a bunch of traits. That's it. They call it now complex needs disorder, and I kind of prefer that
terminology again.
It's better than giving it a name like borderline personality disorder. It's a complex needs, and all of us. Especially since the lockdown, we're all living like, you know, how we're living. And everyone's going to have PTSD. And they'll give you medicine for it. They won't think about how can I heal this. They'll give you medicine for it and they'll make a fortune. We have to end this now. We have to end everything being about drugs and medicine. This is where you find your answers.
Yeah, same for most, not all illnesses, but, you know, love and affection and stuff is a bloody good healer. And at the moment, they've took it away from everyone. They've stopped people touching. They've stopped you seeing smiles. They have literally took everyone's connection with each other away. And that's what we need to gain back as quickly as possible. Hug a day takes the COVID away and whatnot. Yes. I loved it at the last event because men were coming up to shake hands. And as I grabbed their hands, I'll pull them towards me, having a hug. And it's amazing day, and that's what it's about. So, are we going to see you tomorrow? Do you know?
Hang on. Okay, wait. We're just going to finish in a minute, and then I'll. So
Run through.
That's Richard, and that's me. So I hope you love this interview. I just thought it's amazing, you know, that we could have this interview. You're just an amazing guy, and you're going out there to help a lot of people, to wake a lot of people up, and so am I. And guys, please send this interview everywhere and come on board Richard's show and come on board Moving On TV. Let's all join
together
this media that people deserve. I mean, I want to do a positive soap opera. I have loads of actors that are working with me on this new musical. But I just want to say thank you so much, Richard. And if you want to come,
thank you as well.
As you know, this will go on the old channel because I've only got 4 more days. But it'll also go on the new channel, and it'll go on Richard's as well. But contact me, movingontv1@gmail.com. If you want to come on here and tell your story, you're always welcome. It's so incredible when we get real people, because then people say, oh, that's interesting. Richard did that. Lauren did that. I can do that. You know, maybe I could try it, because they're just human. Well, part of us.
That's it.
Human, just like that. So take care, everyone, and
very much.
Love you lots.
Lots of love.
Please subscribe, share, and like. Thanks. Bye.
A flower in bloom. She's all around. She lights up the room with colors. Her colors are strong. The love inside goes on and on. A flower so bright, with just one smile, dark turns to light. Her heart opens like a rose, and deep inside, her love it shows. This is your day now, your day to shine. Take back the key. the treasures to your heart. Small, my baby, small. This is your day. Be the star you are. Be the star you are. Be the star you are. Thank you.